I came awake like I'd been electrocuted, light slamming against my ribs. One second I was dead to the world in jet lag hell. The next I was on my feet, back to the wall, sweeping the dark suite with the muzzle of my concealed Glock. This wasn't my king-size bed back home. This was Accra, Ghana, capital of scams, corruption, and sudden death for anyone dumb enough to chase 3 million in blood diamonds. The Pravara suites was supposed to be safe. RSO team vouched for it. But safe is a relative term when you're the only American PI stupid enough to fly into a hornet's nest run by professionals with terrorist ties. I exhaled slowly, lowered the weapon, and let my eyes adjust. The suite was elegant, dark wood, crisp linens, the low hum of AC battling the tropical heat already pressing against the glass. Outside, the city sprawled under a blood orange dawn. First time in African soil. Europe, Middle East, Asia, Latin America. I'd bled in all of them. Africa was new, and it was already trying to kill me. A scalding shower burned the fog away. Then breakfast in the hotel garden courtyard. Palm trees whispering overhead. Exotic flowers thick as jungle. And a buffet that would feed a small army. But my eyes kept drifting to the women. Tall, regal, many 6 foot plus, moving like they owned the continent. Later, I'd learned about the northern tribes where height like that was normal. Right now, they were just a reminder I was a long way from California. Thank you for joining me on the Private Investigator Experience podcast. I'm your host, Phil Little. I own West Coast Detectives International, a 103-year-old global security firm. My life is not normal. I'm not a local PI. And due to my intrigue around intelligence gathering, starting in my law enforcement days, I've been traveling the world. Before we jump into this adventure, I went on in Ghana. Would you help me by liking, sharing, subscribing? And you know the drill. Hit the notification bell for future posts about the adventures of an international PI with counterterrorism and intelligence background. This post is a case from the files of West Coast detectives. Names have been changed, and this one been dramatized some just for more exciting reading. My phone buzz. New York client. Hedge fund shark named Richard, voice crackling. Phil, they took 3 million from me. The diamonds. They were real. I watched them seal the container myself. We've been introduced by Anna, a smooth talking dual U.S. Canadian citizen who had made the deal sound bulletproof. Richard flew in, met the players, saw the stones, handed off the sealed box to a trusted broker, wired the cash through Standard Bank Group. 2 weeks later, New York Customs opened a crate full of rocks, worthless rocks. I took the case the same day, 25K retainer wired before lunch. My team tore into the backgrounds. Anna's trail lit up like red. Sister's address in Georgia, constant flights to Ghana. Connections that spelled like more than just fraud. OSAC, the Overseas Security Advisor Council, which I'd been part of since its founding in 1989, was one of my most important tools for international information as I traveled the world. They confirmed for me in a phone call that Ghana was ground zero for diamond and gold scams, targeting particularly Americans and Europeans. Dozens of victims every month. Some never made it home. I called the RSO at the embassy. He was blunt. These guys aren't amateurs. Some have terrorist financing links. Watch your six. He gave me Michael's name, an investigator attorney with real pull inside the Ghana police. Our first action was to do a deep dive into the background of the woman. We'll call her Anna. And we'll soon start to have red flags pop up everywhere. Her address came back to her sister in Georgia. And we had a list of trips back and forth to Ghana. We developed a target package on her for future use. 2 weeks later, I touched down. Michael picked me up at the airport, calm, sharp eyed, driving like the chaotic roads were his personal racetrack. Next morning, 9 a.m. sharp, he was outside the Perea Hotel again. Good signs. His office was in a half finished high rise that somehow looked professional inside. Over strong coffee, he laid it out. Police cars here that ran out of gas mid chase because the budget for gas was zero. Witnesses too terrified to testify. Corruption thick as the humidity. But he had Anna's address, confirmed she was in country, and she worked for the mastermind who ran everything from a fortified compound on the outskirts. Rumored terrorist supporter with an army of armed Okaya riders and armored SUVs. Want to see her house? Michael asked after lunch. Hell yes. Aga traffic was pure insanity. Kutrals swerving like drunks, motorcycles darting between cars, arms screaming nonstop, streets twisted without warning, then took on another name. We reached the upscale neighborhood in about 45 brutal minutes. Anna's place was a nice two-story behind a manicured lawn. Two luxury cars in the drive. We parked about a half a block back and watched. 5 minutes later, a black SUV rolled past slow, too slow. Michael's jaw tightened. Time to move. We pulled out. That was when the ambush hit. Two motorcycles roared up behind us, riders in dark helmets. One pulled alongside and motioned us to stop. Michael floored it instead. Fake cops, he shouted. The chase exploded. I braced as we sliced through oncoming traffic. Horns blared. A tow truck swerved, nearly taking off our front end. The motorcycles stuck like glue. One rider drew a pistol, muzzle flash. The rear window starred with a spider web crack. Michael cut down a narrow alley, mirrors scraping concrete walls on both sides. We rushed into a wider boulevard, slammed between two minibuses, and lost them in a crowded roundabout near the city center. Back at his office, adrenaline still pumping, Michael just grinned. Welcome to Gonaville. They know you're here. That night at the hotel, the food was excellent. The piano music soft. A stunningly tall young woman slid into the seat across from me. Small talk. Turned to an unmistakable offer. I smiled, declined politely. My father's voice in my head about integrity and not letting pleasure become a man's downfall. She vanished. At 2 a.m., I woke up to the faint metallic click of my door lock being picked. I chambered around, moved slightly to the door, and barked a challenge. Footsteps sprinted down the hall. Honeytrap had just tried to become a hit. Paranoid level? Nuclear. Next morning at the embassy, security was ironclad. Inside the conference room, I met the RSO, the commercial attaché, and a quiet man whose stare screamed CIA. The meeting lasted all day, lunch included. They traded horror stories of American victims lured with gold or diamonds who disappeared. They wanted everything I had on Anna and the network. The RSO promised introductions to the top brass at the Ghana police. The following day, Michael and I drove to police headquarters, a three-story building buzzing with activity, no AC, officers everywhere but clearly starved for resources. The chief was pure politician. He recognized Anna's name immediately and then kicked us downstairs to his top investigator. In that office, the truth poured out. Standard Bank had lax controls. The manager, who was the one our client Richard met with, had vouched for the scammers. The 3 million was withdrawn in cash within 48 hours after hitting their bank. That was against every government rule. Then it was funneled straight to the mastermind's compound through various routes. To get real police support, I had to fund fuel and operations. The officers didn't have money for lunch when they were out if they went out. Didn't have any way to get around. Some would be taking taxis to go work on cases. But with the funds and the logistics in place, the net tightened fast. Bank employees quietly pressured talk. Anna was confirmed inner circle. As the local investigation continued, the police revealed they were getting political pressure to continue. They related that our suspect Anna had been brought in for questioning on other cases. And during the interview, before they got very far, they would receive a call to release her. I huddled with the embassy about the situation. They got involved and exerted pressure on the locals, reminding them of all the money they were receiving from the U.S. for their upgrading their justice system. The resistance lessened for the present, but as we found out later in the journey, with the courts, we were outnumbered. We would take the little victory we were given and make the gang's life miserable as possible. The compound we'd scouted, the headquarters for the Nigerian crew that had located from Nigeria when they cracked down. They had computers, fake documents, burner phones, and the works. 2 nights later, we were staking out the compound from a safe distance when headlights blinded us. 4 motorcycles and a blacked out armored SUV exploded out of the gate. Michael spun the wheel. We raced back toward the city. The armored SUV smashing our bumper at highway speed. Gunfire ripped through the night. Bullets pinged off the trunk. I returned fire through the passenger window, shattering one rider's headlight and sent the bike cartwheeling into a roadside stall. We hit a construction zone. Dirt, barricades, chaos. Michael took a side street so narrow that the SUV couldn't follow. But the remaining motorcycles chased us like wolves through a night market. Vendors, livestock scattered. We finally lost them by cutting through a packed roundabout, lights hampering. They're coming for us now, Michael said back at the hotel. Both of us were sweating. The climax came at dawn. With ironclad evidence, embassy pressure, and my funding, the police greenlit the raid. I insisted on riding the lead armored personnel carrier. We rolled out in a convoy. The APC hit the massive iron gate like a freight train. Metal screaming, gates exploding inward. We poured into pure bedlam. Nigerian scammers scrambled from rooms full of computers. Flash bundles flew, hard drives smashed under boots. Gunfire cracked from the main house. I could cover behind the APC as rounds ricocheted off the armor. Michael and the tactical team cleared room by room. Inside, we found everything. Ledgers of American victims, wire records, passports of the disappeared, and crates of fake diamonds. But the mastermind wasn't waiting to be arrested. A side gate burst open. His personal armored convoy tried to flee. Hard chases erupted across the open ground beyond the compound. One APC pursued, ramming one escaped vehicle sideways. Motorcycles zigzagged wildly. I spotted the mastermind in the lead SUV. His men tried a desperate ambush at the narrow bridge, but the police helicopter, finally fueled on my dime, swooped in low. Rotor wash kicking up dust, forcing them to surrender. The raid was a victory. We shut down one major cell, recovered evidence, but the 3 million was long gone, laundered through networks with terrorist ties. Prosecution dragged on for months. Witnesses vanished. Corruption slowed everything to a crawl. Eventually, my client pulled funding when recovery seemed impossible. I flew home with scars, memories, and a warning. I still deliver on every podcast and lecture. If it sounds too good to be true, diamonds, gold, impossible returns, it probably is. Danger just doesn't walk with those deals. It runs you off the road, kicks in your door at 2 a.m., and shoots at you through the agro traffic. Anna, the mastermind, the Nigerian crew, they're still out there somewhere. The scams continue. But one morning in Agra, the good guys hit back hard. Back in California, the case to bring Anna to justice in the U.S. started with a vengeance. Using friends, I contacted the FBI, even this case with a $3 million loss because they had so many cases, their entry level was $5 million. But backed by a friendly call from a former FBI head, the FBI entered the case. Meeting with FBI agents, one agent, my first contact, was a young lady who was a top professional and very good to look at. She was my initial contact. Got all the information, was going to process it to LA and into Texas, where there was also a victim. I must admit, I enjoy working with women more than men. That first meeting led to a case being built. And as our suspect was preparing to leave the States back to Ghana, she knew the trail was getting close to her. But before she got to the airport, she was presented a warrant and arrested. Over the next weeks, she was offered opportunities to help herself by revealing the inner workings of the gang. But she continually declined and spent 5 years in federal prison. Even though the client didn't recover any of his investment, he had some comfort in the fact that the person who set him up was in jail. And that's the only kind of justice an international PI can ever really count on. If you enjoy going on one of my adventures, please share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future posts. I so enjoy your comments, questions, and ideas. Let me know if you have been the victim of an international scam or know someone who was. How did it work out? Send me that information on my email at pi777 at gmail.com. Now, remember, leave those questions or comments on any of the platforms or at that email, pi777 at gmail.com. Until next time, be safe and remember, prevention is better than enforcement. Know what you're buying before you buy it. Know who you're getting involved with before you get involved. And you will keep yourself from becoming a victim. Yes, perhaps a private investigator can help in your case if you have a problem within your family or business or other some relationship that's going on. Send me that information in a summary to pi777 at gmail.com, and I'll let you know if an investigator can help you. May God bless you, your family, and may God bless America.